So with that, let's actually start with introductions. So I always introduce the PSG team, and most people know us. Jolene, did you mind giving us your background here quick before we dive in?
Sure. My name is Jolinda Moore. I am the executive director of the Office of Stewardship and Development and the Catholic Community Foundation in Indianapolis. I've been in this role for a little over 10 years, but I've been with the Archdiocese for 19 years. Um, and I see and know a lot of the names on this call, and we have been working with PSG for about 2.5 years now. So we're excited to be part of today's conversation.
Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. So thank you for joining us. We love it when we can get clients on the call here today. Housekeeping items. I'm going to be brief because I think most people know us here. Well, one, yes, we do record this. So if you're watching this live, don't worry about taking notes. We'll record it. We'll send you the recording, and we'll even send you a link where you can download the slides and get more information. So don't worry about that. You can just sit back and enjoy. If you have questions as we go, hit the Q&A button. We always have a battle between people putting questions in the chat versus putting them in the Q&A. The benefit of using that Q&A button is that we guarantee we'll answer your question because it'll show up on our screen and we can't ignore it until we answer it. I think that's it for housekeeping. You'll probably get the link to the webinar. If it's not by the end of today, it'll be by tomorrow morning. If you don't see it, check your spam folder. Sometimes it gets caught there. Is background on who we are, Pringer Solutions Group. We have the greatest job in the world. We work with dioceses, more than 120 of the 180 dioceses in some function. For a lot of them, we run their annual appeals. For others, like Jolinda, we manage their Razor's Edge database. For increasingly number of dioceses, we're helping them with automation or different things, and we'll talk about that today. Um, in terms of other things we do, we have a great tool called Ask Genius. Many of you use Ask Genius. Mr. Menke is on the line here with us today. This was a wonderful little tool that Mr. Menke built to set ask amounts, right? You're going to send out an annual appeal mailing to 10,000 or 100,000 households. You need a way to make sure that you're asking everybody for the right amount. Ask Genius is the tool that can do that for you. I'm very proud of it. Many of you also use our Catholic social media tool, increasingly so since we presented this summer to the Catholic Media Association. It's been a very busy time for us. Catholic social media is the tool we built, again, for dioceses. You'll see a theme here, so that dioceses can share social media content with parishes in a way that they serve it up on a platter at the parish. They just have to click on the posts that they like, and it goes out organically from the parish. So this is the way that dioceses can reach 100 times more people by taking the content that they have and serving it up to parishes and letting parishes post it. Parishes then, of course, get all the analytics, and the diocese gets the analytics back. Great, wonderful tool. If you're interested in it, drop me a line. I'm happy to send you a link, and we can tell you more about it. Final housekeeping item we have next Tuesday. I can't believe it's here already. We have our big reveal of the big survey that we did. So every couple of years, we undertake a ridiculous amount of work to do the big diocesan survey. This year's survey was all about software. So what software does your diocese use for payroll, right, and accounting? And do you mandate parishes use a certain software? And if so, what software do you mandate? And we also asked a lot about like Catholic newspapers. Are you still printing one? Are you doing a magazine? All of those results, John and I are going to release on Tuesday. And if you're one of the dioceses that filled out that survey, there's 120 of you. We will also give you your link to download your copy of the entire data set, right? So that is all coming to you next week. Make sure you sign up. If you don't have the link, let us know in the chat, and I'm sure Rob or Mr. Menke can get that to you. All right. Holy cow, Jolinda, was that like the longest wind up ever? Do you think anybody's even still paying attention?
They're
Uh,
wanting to see who's placing bets on tonight's game. So yeah, they're sticking around.
I like it. Hey, Andy, what is the line on tonight's game? You
The
probably know that,
Chiefs
don't
are favored by 3. I like the Ravens. And the over-under total currently sits at 48. I like the under. Both defenses are good.
So you come here for the automation, but you stay for Andy's lead pipe lock NFL bets.
You got it.
Um, okay, fundraising automation. Topic of the day. Stacy, while I cough with my microphone off here, tell us again what the heck we're talking about. What is fundraising automation?
So Microsoft Power Automate is a connector tool that can connect to a bazillion apps, and Blackbaud has released a certified connector. So we can now take data from Razor's Edge and connect it to all of these things, plus about 600 other applications out in the world. And it can do all sorts of things like take your data from Razor's Edge and send emails, or it can take information that comes in on a Cognito form and put it into Razor's Edge. There's about a million possibilities.
which is what got us all into this, right? So just so people know, this started 3 or 4 years ago. Blackbaud told us about that connector. They called us because we're the biggest user of Blackbaud. PSG is the biggest user of Blackbaud on planet Earth. They said we got a connector coming up. Stacy looked into it, really started getting good and seeing how all the different possibilities, and we just started building automation. So that's where it all started. And today we actually have this as a product that we offer to dioceses and some other large Catholic organizations across the country. We branded it as Automate Genius. Basically, we love it because through automation, you can do things like put forth a little tiny bit of effort and have a huge impact, right? That's what we're all about. Jolinda's going to share some great examples of what they're doing in their diocese. So that's what we're talking about, fundraising automation. If you're on the line and you don't use Razor's Edge, all of this will still apply in principle, but some of the details we talk about are going to be different, right? If you're using Salesforce or Virtuous or Ministry Platform or something else, yes, there will be some automations and APIs, but really today we're talking about Razor's Edge at the diocesan level. Okay, so Jolinda, you have been at the, I'm going to say the bleeding edge of this, right? So you, from the early days when we started talking, you saw the benefit of automation. So that's why we wanted to have you on. And you've got, I think, 6 different things going right now and some coming up. So I'm just going to kind of put them up there and ask, Stacy, do you mind lead me? So let's start with the first 3 here. Tell me what these do, and then we'll kind of have Jolinda weigh in on how they're working.
So the duplicate finder is kind of simple, but what it does is every day it checks any new records that have been added to the system, and it searches Razor's Edge for any records that might match on address, email, phone name, and then it'll send a notification to you. So it doesn't do anything. It just says, hey, you just added Joe Smith, and we found Josephine Smith. Are they the same person? And those go to a staff member at Archdiocese every day.
Awesome.
Actually, I was a little shocked to see this on the list, Nick, only because it's so simplified. I forgot we were doing it. The emails don't come to me. So I'm like, wait, what is that one? You might ask, aren't you checking to make sure that you don't have duplicates before you enter them? We work with a lockbox and they do a lot of keying for us. So I would say it's not our staff that's creating the duplicates. It's other staff that can sometimes create those duplicates, but there's an inbox that these go to. They get taken care of right away. The ridiculous number of duplicates that we had when we were partnered with PSG, I can't even tell you. It was several thousand. It was embarrassing. And we're down to, those are cleaned up on a weekly basis now.
Awesome. Stacy, so before this, so this duplicate finder runs every night. It looks for something that might be a dupe, and then it just alerts somebody so they can fix it. Before this, what is the process, right? What does a diocese do without this?
So without this, there are tools in Razor's Edge Database View and in WebView that do these kinds of duplicate searches. And it basically is just a huge pile of records that they think might be duplicates. And you go through each pair one at a time, and it's very, very, very tedious. And it still works. And a lot of times people will use that in conjunction with this duplicate finder, especially if you have a large backlog, because this one is designed to find any new duplicates added, not to go back and fix the thousands that have gotten added over the years.
Got it. So this is really is what Jolinda says. So if lockbox is keying stuff in every night, oh, the lockbox added somebody as a new person. Let's clean it up right now instead of waiting until December when we normally do the housekeeping. Okay. Awesome. All right. What's the next one? Adding constituent codes based on giving. What's that all about?
So Indy has a bunch of different organizations that are using the same Razor's Edge for their donations. And so what we're doing is adding a constituent code to donors based on what funds they're giving to. So this can be useful for a variety of things, but like even security, if you have a user that you want to only see donations for their department or whatever it is. But it also just helps with reporting and list building and all of those kinds of things. So we're doing that for a whole bunch of different organizations, and hopefully that helps to kind of organize all the data. Jolinda, is there anything else you guys are using that for that I have forgotten about?
No, those are the key pieces. It's just simplified the process of pulling list because, as you said, we're blessed that all Catholic charities agencies use the database in the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. There's 5 of them. So our Catholic Charities in Terre Haute doesn't have access to the entire database. They only have access to their people, if you will.
Right.
Once somebody gives to Terre Haute, the constituent code's added and they're immediately available in their pool to view.
Got
And
it.
this happens overnight. So right before automation, this was something that Jennifer had to do on a weekly or monthly basis, go in and pull a query and add all these constituent codes. So there was always a lag between when they could see their people and when they, when they finally popped in. So this happens every day now, and it's just happening in the background.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Gift gift notifications by email. So this gets more into the stuff that I pay attention to, like the frontline sort of donor facing stuff. So let me back up. Automations, there's two groups. There's the back office, like make life easier on the database manager, streamline what you're doing, save hours, all sorts of headaches that most of us don't realize are happening in the background. And then there's sort of the donor facing stuff, help us raise more money, help us build relationships. Tell us what the gift notifications are all about. How does that work?
So there's about 8 million options of how we could do this. This is one where we send any gifts of 5,000 plus to anything in the database goes to Jolinda every morning. So this is just to help keep an eye on, what big gifts are coming in, what funds they're going to, and all of that.
Excellent.
This helps us find not a lot. This helps us identify errors early. So I had one come through the other day that said one of our employees had given $5,000 to the Legacy Gala. It's one of our admin staff. So I sent her a quick email and said, "You're either more generous than I ever imagined, or we got an error." And she replied, "That was a test file. Sorry about that. Don't count on it."
Don't tell accounting about that gift. Yeah.
It also gives me the opportunity for the foundation. If a gift comes in and I know it's supposed to go to a specific fund, at a quick glance, right? Because I'm aware of donations, especially at $10,000 or more. I have an idea of what's going on. It's just a quick glance to either be like, oh, I got to pick up the phone and call this donor. I need to alert somebody else that they should call the donor. Or I've never seen that name before. I wonder what's going on here.
Yep. Yep. And that's the perfect example. We're doing this one for a whole bunch of dioceses, and we're going to expand on it a bit with what we're doing in Dallas here, because just where you went, Jolinda, like you can see how all these build on each other. It starts with, hey, I just want to see gifts above a certain level for the reason you described, to keep an eye on things and make sure I can reach out. And then it's naturally led to, well, wait, what if I could just create an action to call them, or what if I could assign this to somebody? And you kind of see how this all builds on one another as we get into it. What about gift acknowledgments? What do we do? This isn't just general gift acknowledgement. You had some specific things you were doing.
So Austen, will you describe this one? This is really cool.
Yeah, sure. So this automation goes out and finds gifts of a particular type. So it goes and finds IRA gifts, donor advised funds, endowment, and stock. And it knows based on those types what letter template should be generated. And it has some intricacies in this as well. So like down in the as allocated as follows, that section is purely customized to the campaign that the gift is coded with. So different campaigns have different verbiage that appears within that row. And I think the best part about this is it just runs in the background twice a week, and a member of Arch Indy gets a notification for each of the 4 types, and it includes the final letter file, their envelopes, and a digest so that they can view all the gifts in one place. And they just review the file, print it off, and send it out.
Awesome. Huge time saver for the staff, I'm sure, Jolinda.
I will say this has saved one staff. They were putting in, no joke, part-time staff probably.
Yeah.
No joke, 20 hours a week, generating all the different types of letters, creating them from scratch, doing the merges. It's just a file. And then that file gets posted to Razor's Edge, that it actually went out. So we have all of the documentation in one place. It's a quick glance. We review every one of the letters that before they go out. But it has expedited our turnaround and acknowledge process considerably.
Which is a big deal, right? So you can move from sending those once a week or even every other week or more for some organizations to turn them around in a matter of 48 hours, 72 hours, like which is what we all want as fundraisers, right? Okay, so that's all super cool stuff. 2 more. Stacy, what are we talking about? Check receipt email. What are we doing there?
So they were getting a lot of phone calls from people mailing in checks for especially pledge payments and those kinds of things, right? Because there's a delay between when the check comes in and when a letter gets out. And so they're getting a lot of phone calls. So we send them an email now the day after their check is lands at the Archdiocese. They get an email from Jolinda that says, I got your check. So hopefully, Jolinda, I haven't asked you about this for a couple of weeks, so I don't know how this is going, but hopefully that's eliminated a few of those phone calls from those donors.
Many, many,
Awesome.
many. And
Awesome.
what I would say to everyone on the call, I don't, maybe you're blessed in your area, but in our area, mail that used to take 2 days to get to us is taking 7 days to get to us.
Mm-hmm.
The donors who are making pledge payments don't understand that logic.
Yep.
And the blame gets placed on us of, well, you didn't get my gift, you didn't process my gift. So we want every minute and being able to turn around and say, hey, we got your check. We do. I bet this has cut our calls in half. And it's
Awesome.
also a proactive touch point.
Mhm.
It also, from a long-term fundraising standpoint, not everyone wants to give you their email address, but if you say to them, look, we can send you a receipt as soon as we receive your check if we have a valid email address, email addresses are coming in much faster.
Jolinda, is it the right way to think about it? Like this example of we're getting a ton of, if I'm in your shoes and I'm looking at my staff and I'm thinking, man, where are we wasting time? We're wasting time on phone calls.
Yep.
Just did we get checked? Like, is that the way to look at automation from, in your opinion? Like, where are we wasting time and then how do we automate that?
That's exactly right. And
Okay.
it's also what tasks are tasks that nobody really enjoys.
Yeah.
So, in terms of retaining employees, I have the happiest staff and the most cooperative staff that I've ever had because they're not coming in to 15 phone calls in a week saying, have you gotten my check? Have you gotten my check? And then
Right.
having a conversation with Mary Bell, who doesn't understand why it took 7 days for the check to come in. So now we're 15 minutes in on one call.
Right.
Instead, we've got the automation going. So it's simplifying or it's automating things that were thoughtless tasks to get them done. It's being proactive and reaching out to people before they reach out to us. And then I'll jump ahead a little with this BBMS transaction, the automatically linking things. It's significantly improved our relationship with our accounting office
Yes.
because they were having to dig through details and find things out. And you know they like to do a lot of things, but that tedious work is one thing that they weren't interested. And when this came into play, and we were switching from another credit card processing system to BBMS. So they were just prepared for the headaches that were going to come.
Yeah.
This really simplified things for them.
Andy, can I ask you about this? So too, so just briefly, like, so on the reconciliation, right? I don't think we have a whole lot of finance people on the call. We have a lot of database managers and development directors. I should have probably leaned into the CFOs on this because their eyes can be open. But that's a friction point in a lot of dioceses, right? So they get my experience is diocesan finance offices get reports from the development office. They're always 70% of what they need. They're never fully what they need. They complain, and then the development office is like, look, this is what I can do in Razor's Edge. Before automation, like before you could really customize stuff, like this is the canned report. Is that accurate? Like, is that what
It is,
lane?
and generally where the friction is finance is only concerned about the date that the money shows up in the bank, not the day that the gift was actually made or the day that the gift was entered in Razor's Edge, which are two different, so we're really dealing with three different dates. And what we were able to do in this automation is essentially kind of marry all of that information in one spot so that finance could know that this person made a gift last Monday. The distribution from Blackbaud Merchant Services came on the following Tuesday, but this money, accounts for all of these gifts, some of which were made on Monday, some were on Tuesday, some on Friday, but all of this money is from all of these gifts and everything really links up. And that was a very manual process for one or more people in the development office and in the finance office. So the automation has certainly simplified that. And we've been able to utilize obviously this, but several other, even automating some reports that have made the relationship, a little bit more tolerable from a development and finance standpoint for other dioceses as well.
So go make friends with your finance team. Ask them, what could we provide to you that would make your life easier? They will tell you. And if you can't get it out of the can, then you can probably automate it, right? So that's what we're talking about here. Okay.
One quick thing, we
Yeah.
2 years ago, with a different CFO or a different controller, and not having Jennifer as our database administrator, we were sending 23 reports a month to accounting for them to balance with. I think we're down to 6.
Oh, I'm dying to know what the people. So we've got so many dioceses on the line. I'm dying to know if this is hitting. Like if there's people nodding vigorously, like okay, this is an area, or if like everybody else, like oh, we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Our finance and development team, they love each other. We all get along. Perfect report.
Some of the people on this call are currently trying to figure out the part-time person that they can eliminate because Jolinda just told them they can cut staff by purchasing automations.
But you know what? We didn't. So here's the really cool thing. And I was just working with a staff member on it today. So because we're not doing letters now, we're doing letters, we're not doing them in the old-fashioned way. That individual now is helping us set up all of our events in Razor's Edge, which had never been set up in Razor's Edge. They were set up in a different system. They are then working on, with Jennifer's help, creating a report. So before we go to an event, I can say to the Archbishop, this is how we changed our mailing list for this event. This percent of the people in the crowd we're just cultivating. This percent of people in the crowd are new faces that we need to get the messaging across. So we got rid of the dirty work, the work that's no fun, and now we're looking at new strategic information. So don't get rid of that person.
Agreed.
Just help develop their skill set.
Put them to better use. Completely agree. Okay, final note on Indianapolis before we got all sorts of exciting stuff to share from other dioceses here. You've got stuff coming up, Julie. This is what's in the pipeline, right? So, Stacy, anything we want to highlight here?
I haven't actually even talked with Jolinda about that first one. They have designed a really cool new welcome series for new donors, including emails and phone calls and all sorts of things. So we're going to talk about how we can automate that so that those actions just get assigned in Razor's Edge and automatically kind of magically appear for the fundraisers. Fixing gift subtypes is another kind of data cleanup thing. And then acknowledgement letters for the seminary, another process like Austen talked about with the, the real tedious, time-consuming letter process getting done automatically to give them a little more time back.
Awesome. Okay. Jolinda, do you mind sticking around and kind of helping away? And we're going to have Q&A at the end. I know people are going to have questions about how this all works. Is that okay?
I'm glad to stay on. Yep.
Awesome.
Looking forward to it.
Okay. So that's what we're doing in Indianapolis. And we asked Jolinda because, again, she's at the forefront. She gets it, right? And she's got a big staff and she's working really hard to make sure everybody's optimized. And I love what she said about getting rid of the boring, tedious stuff that nobody likes so that they can do other more exciting stuff. There are so many dioceses that are doing automations. And what I'm going to do now is just in a sprint, I'm going to highlight my favorite things. And this might be, I was telling the team before this might be my favorite webinar. And we do a lot of webinars, but automation is it's just so understandable, right? There's great stories to tell about saving time, about donors loving something that you did, right? That took very little effort. So I'm going to walk through what we're doing in Phoenix. Stacy, Austen, you guys stay on your toes because I'm going to ask you quick questions. Tell us about Phoenix. So this is the recurring donor invitation. Stacy, what is this all about?
So Phoenix has a huge number of recurring donors. It's awesome. And one of the fears with recurring donors is often, so are they going to give $5 a month for the rest of their lives? We really don't want that, right? We want them to increase every year. So Phoenix sends an email every year to all of their current recurring donors and says, hey, thanks so much. We'd really love for you to increase if you can. Here's an easy way to do it. They click a link in the email that comes to this web form. It's not a donation form. It's just a web form with about 3 fields on it. And we put pre-filled information into that personalized link that everyone gets. So it has their name and email, and then it gives them some options of how much they'd like to increase their gift by, and they click submit. So within just 2 clicks, usually they're saying, yes, please move me from $50 to $60 a month or whatever it is.
Without having to fill out a new donation form, without having the diocese to have to worry about multiple pledges going and multiple recurring gifts and all that stuff, just being very donor centered so they can click and increase a gift.
And when the form gets filled out, the diocese gets an email back saying Stacy's asked to increase her gift by $10, and we've secretly added a hidden field into this form that has her constituent ID. So it says constituent ID 678 910. So it's really, really easy for the diocese to make that adjustment to the existing gift. You don't have, multiple recurring gifts to clean up, or trying to look it up and she used a different email address this time or something. It's all the information you need is right there.
Automation for the win. And I love it because it's so we've helped so many dioceses move to recurring giving. That is the future, right? Old way is pledges, which some still do, and there's a room for that. But the whole world is moving to recurring monthly giving for a whole bunch of reasons. The one drawback is, oh man, what if we lock somebody in at that gift? Do we lose the ability to upgrade them? This solves that. It uses automation. It's simple, easy, it works. We can share the data. Okay. So Phoenix, that's what they're doing with automation. In addition to, honestly, I think 10 or 15 other things. Phoenix is blessed because they have a guy named Tom. And Tom is one of, if you don't work at PSG, there's like 3 people that really know what they're doing in this automation Razor's Edge world, and Tom is one of them. So we want to give him all the credit in the world. He does some great things there. Dallas. Okay, Catholic Diocese of Dallas. This is Kelly Halashin and his team down there. They're doing some fun stuff. So Jolinda, this is what you talked about, but we've kind of expanded on it a little bit. So Kelly gets daily gift digest, right? Any gift, I think it's above $1,000 for all the reasons we talked about. He wants to have his eyes on significant gifts just to make sure we see what's going on. Those links, Stacy, he can probably click on that takes him right into Razor's Edge. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. The name goes to the donor page, and then the gift amount link goes to the actual gift page.
Yeah, and where the gift came from. Email notification goes to Kelly, who is the head of advancement there. But then tell me about this. So you can assign actions. Like this is kind of where we talk about building on just the digest stuff.
Yep. So based on the amount of the gift, we can automatically assign phone call actions to these people. And so they'll pop up in their Razor's Edge Work Center as, an action that's due for you to do. And it has, a note in there that says, please call this person. They made a gift of 500 to whatever. So.
Awesome. So if you're a large diocese and you use Work Center, if you know what we're talking about when we say Work Center, you have major gift officers, relationship managers, this is what you should be focused on. Like you can make life so much easier for all those folks. Just serve up those tasks on a platter. And now we get to the most exciting development in all of automation. And I say that because our team, Rob doesn't have his camera on, but Rob's behind the scenes. In the hour before we went live here today, Rob built this out, and I want to show people what the heck's going on. So if you're on the screen, and we can even, maybe Rob can drop that link in the chat. We built out a way to show you exactly what this looks like from an automation standpoint. So if you go to that page, go to content.pringersolutions/automate. Rob built this, got up early today, and built this out. If you put in your name and email, what will happen, and I encourage you all to do this, this isn't a marketing thing, this is just to show you how automation works and how cool this is. Go to that page. It's a simple form. It looks like this. Put your name, your last name, and your email, right? We already have your email. You're here on the webinar. Please don't worry about marketing stuff. This is just to show you how this works. When you click submit, it is going to send you a sample that looks a little bit like this. And by a little bit, I mean exactly. So put in your name and email, click for a sample, and imagine how much your life is going to change in the next 10 seconds. What you will get is what all of our newest clients are getting, and this is new, probably even to Jolinda. Like we've gotten so good at kind of honing in on what this looks like. This is the email, what we call our daily digest email for dioceses that are doing heartfelt emails. You can, so imagine I'm a development director, or I'm an engagement manager, major gift officer. I've got a portfolio of folks. Every morning I get this email that looks just like this. And I see there's people on there. I'm like, okay, Leslie Cooper made a gift over $1,000. I go and I click on that little message prompt, and what happens? Like magic, it drafts an email from me to that donor based on what happened inside of Razor's Edge. In this case, it was a gift above $1,000. So we want to draft a heartfelt message that's appropriate for somebody who just made a gift above $1,000. That's what it does. None of this requires me to go log into Razor's Edge. None of this requires me to pull a report and take a look and see, okay, who gave what, and are they on my list? Am I assigned to them? It just works. It just automates the entire process so that it serves it up on a platter every single morning. And I want to highlight all the different things that we have clients doing here, right? So a gift above 1,000 is something, but there's also, Stacy, a first-time donor, right? Which is a big deal in the life of a diocesan annual appeal. When somebody makes that first gift, you want to wrap them in your warm embrace. You want to tell them how great that is. You want to say, I see you, I notice you, I think you're a first-time donor. Let me tell you who I am. All of that can be automated for you. And this isn't, I always like to describe this way. This isn't magic, right? This is just taking all the things that Jolinda would do if she had unlimited time and doing them for her, getting her 95% of the way there. Every one of these emails that you, if you click through, like the first time donor welcome email, or it's somebody's birthday, or somebody increased a gift, you would write that email if you had unlimited time, but nobody does. So use automation to scour Razor's Edge for those events, and then every morning just serve you up a bunch of emails. You can click on it. And Stacy, if I click on one of these, like let's say Esme Garcia is a live one, and I know Esme and her husband just passed away or something like that, what do I do? Do I still have to send it? Does this automatically go out? Like, how does that work?
Right. That's the beauty of these. None of these are going out automatically. You get to decide if you're going to send it or not. Just don't send that one. Or you can add a personal note saying, glad I got to see you last week. Hope you're doing okay. Whatever it is that you want to add. So yeah, rather than being a canned email that just goes out to people without any input from you, you can choose to send or not send. You can change the message. You can ask
And
somebody else to send that one.
what's the benefit? I noticed when you design these, so like if you use that sample, please go check it out because it'll get you a real email. You can see how it works in real life. This is coming, like if I click on that, it's sending from my Outlook or my Gmail. What's the advantage of that over having like constant contact or like Razor's Edge, like email go
Yep.
out?
So one drawback is you don't get to see open rates and, all of those kinds of things, right? So you're losing a little bit of that. But the benefit is that it's an actual email from you. People are going to be more likely to read it because it looks like a real email. It doesn't have an unsubscribe link. It's not, there's not a bunch of colors. It's not clearly a marketing email. So they just have a much better response rate because people realize that you have actually sat down and sent them an email.
Go ahead, Andy. Can't hear you, big
I
guy.
can't hear you.
Sorry, first time using Zoom. Be I said it's more likely to get to them as well, and that is because it is becoming from a personal email. It's not spam blasting, so it's not going to get caught up in a lot of the spam filters, obviously, that exist out there. That's a pretty significant component. One of the things I wanted to mention, and we can only fit so many in the message prompts. Many of the people on the call I see, and we know this because we work with them, are utilizing giving societies in some way, shape, or form. And so if you are leveraging a giving society or giving level as part of your annual appeal, you can now probably for the first time acknowledge those people as being a member of the Holy Family Society when they're making the gift, not at your annual donor recognition gala 7 or 8 months after they've made the gift, right? So it gives you an opportunity to kind of recognize and acknowledge them in multiple occasions as opposed to just one, which was very much after they made that initial gift and felt good about it.
And the magic of this is, I just love the informal nature of it, right? Donors are used to getting very flowery language letters, and it's all very officious and all of that. You know what moves the needle? When I make a gift to something and I get an email from someone like Jolinda who's like, "Hey, I just saw you made that gift. That's awesome," right? Period. And like, call me if you ever need anything, but I just wanted to say that's great. Thank you for the gift. Like, that is so memorable for me and for every donor, right? Like, that is a big deal. Um, what about Stacy? I want to explain. So a lot of folks that we've been doing automations with, this is even new to them. So tell me, when we first started building automations, we did it through Power Automate, and we would actually create every single email, right? Like in a drafts folder, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so old school way, they appeared in your drafts folder in Outlook, which is still probably a great place for these kinds of things. But these ones will appear with what's called a mail to link. So you click on it and it creates the draft for you kind of right there.
So that just how much we've grown in the last 2 or 3 years doing this. Like every time we deploy, there's like, oh wow, it'd be really cool. What if we just did it this way and it only generated the email if they click on it? That way we don't clog up a drafts folder. So this is a big deal. I talk about it a bunch because this is what gets me excited. The fundraising, human touches, like the donor cultivation stuff, I love it. Of course, I like saving time and stuff on the back end, but this is what really blows me away with what our team has put together.
We do, Nick, before we jump on to the next thing too, some people freak out because they're like, okay, I love all of this, but I don't want to all of a sudden get a list that has like 800 potential emails for me to now like have to click on, right? So you will have the ability to kind of filter or limit how many of these kinds of things you want in a given day. Or if you want, maybe 10 up to 10 of the gifts above 1,000, but maybe only 5 of the happy birthday or something along those lines.
Yeah.
You can kind of use the filters that we've created to expand or kind of, decrease perhaps the amount of these that you actually want to show up.
Love it. And Andy was a former, development director and major gift officer and all those things. Like, Andy, can you imagine working in development and not having this? And like, just like how different it is, like the ability, it's like you have an assistant that just does nothing but like writes
Right.
heartfelt donor touches for you. And you just pick the ones you like and send them and you ignore the rest. Like,
Yes.
it,
It's mind blowing. I think about, how many blue pens I went through in my days as a major gift officer, trying to like write those things where this simple email could have, been done. And really, like, it's so proactive, right? Like, I would have to run reports or ask the report guy to tell me like who made gifts in the last week so that I could know who to even contact.
or
Now report
milestone
guy
gift.
can do other things. Like, I can do this myself, right?
Like the milestone gift. I don't know if we have that example in there. If somebody just made their 10th gift, Jolinda, to the Archdiocese of Indianapolis, like that is such a cool touch to be able like, hey, Stacy, thanks for your gift. I think this is your 10th gift, to our appeal. That is so meaningful to the donor. And there's no way in heck that you would be able to do that absent automating it. Like you're not going to pull a list and then count back and see how many gifts this person made and then draft an email. So
One thing I would say, Nick, is Stacy, remember when we started doing just the acknowledgement that a check had been received? And I was like, you got to shrink the number of people we're emailing to because I can't get responses back out to all the people.
right.
And all I was saying is we received your check for this amount. So there was thank you. And then there was, hey, I've got a few more questions if you've got time. So when we rolled it out, she was like, how far back do you want to go? So we started small and grew, and now it just runs on a daily basis. For those people who are reoccurring donors by check, um, those individuals get the same message time and time again. So I don't hear back from them as often. But yeah, it's brought forth some donor conversations.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. Let's build. So we always just keep building on what it is. So I'm going to show in Boston how they've taken. So that we've covered the big idea that I love so much, like heartfelt email served up on a platter, written for you every morning based on whether it's a new donor or a live bunch or milestone gift, whatever it is. But I want to show how it works in practice. So Stacy, is this you or Austen or Andy? Who's the best to walk through the if then statement here?
Andy or I have both worked on this.
Yep.
All
But
right.
Boston has a big team. They have split up their heartfelt emails to their annual appeal donors by a bunch of different things, right? So instead of just having them all come from one person, they come from about 6 people, and it's based on a variety of things, right? So if the donor is making a gift to the Spanish language appeal, they get an email from Carla, who actually speaks Spanish and can respond to their emails when they write back to her. So that's useful. And then otherwise, if the donor is assigned to a solicitor, then we find their solicitor and send an email from him. And then if it's an especially large donation, we'll also send a second email from Gavin, from the director, just kind of as an extra touch. Andy, anything else on that?
No, I mean, and I think that, in working with the team, they were not doing anything like this, right? So they knew they wanted to do something. They just didn't know what or how it would work. So we kind of consulted with them to determine, what's the right amount, what's the number. I mean, even looking at that $10,000 gift amount, they have a specific giving society, their top giving society, right? The Cardinals Leadership Circle is gifts of $10,000 or more. So we use that amount as kind of a way to designate at that level, you're getting, kind of all the bells and whistles, not just a nice personal thank you. But we also wanted to make sure that if people that weren't assigned were giving nice gifts, this is a way, and PJ, as kind of the VP for philanthropy, said, it's not helped him just thank the people that he knows, it's helped him identify the people he doesn't know. And they've actually been able to then assign, those surprise gifts to fundraisers to actually generate meaningful face-to-face meetings, all kind of really driven from this flow that you've created. So it's pretty powerful. And as you said, Jolinda, right? It's not just thank you so much, but we're starting to see responses, right? We showed the Diocese of Dallas before. John Hahnemann sent an email like this and got back a response from somebody that said, hey, I'm actually interested in putting the diocese on my estate plans. Like, you must be my guy because you sent me the email. Like, can we get together, right? So all of those kinds of things are possible because we're taking that initial step and being proactive and reaching out to that person kind of at that point of engagement in a way that most of you are not doing, or the ones that are doing it now were not previously doing.
Yeah. So this is a wonderful look behind the scene. Like, this is how automations work, right? If then statements, and then just having a thoughtful approach, and the end result is send this person an email from this person, or alert Jolinda, or create this thank you letter or something. Just a series of if then statements. And what Andy said, I want to echo, because I remember in Phoenix, this was, I think, when Linda was working there, who's since moved on, it was this that was so important. Are they assigned to a solicitor? And if the gift was above 5,000 and the answer was no, that triggered some really important things, like emailing the director and being like, this person just made a major gift. They're not assigned to anyone. Let's assign them to somebody, right? And that has led to six-figure gifts, right? From people that were not on your radar, before this. So, okay. That's the background. Boston's doing just kind of, expanding on where we are with the emails. What else do we have going on? Oklahoma City. This is another good back office one. Peter DeCartry. Everybody
He's on the
knows
call. I see him.
Oh yes, hello Peter. Everybody knows Peter. Peter's been on the innovative side for a very long time. Good client of ours. We call it the magic button. Stacy, what are we talking about? What does Peter have us build down there?
So in Razor's Edge database view, there used to be a button called, well, it's still there, but it's called load defaults. And it allows you to say, this is a, married person with the wife listed first. So, so then we can say, load all these defaults, and it puts all your different addressee and salutation name formats that you need for your business processes, right? And every diocese has at least probably 3, maybe 8, maybe 20. I don't know how many you have, but you have to build them all, and it takes forever to do it one at a time. And it's one of the few things I think that might take longer in WebView than it takes in database view, which is weird, because most things in WebView I think take less time. But we have created in Razor's Edge NXT WebView a button that actually just finds the constituent information, finds out if they have a spouse, finds out if the wife is listed first or the husband, whatever, and it figures all that stuff out, and it adds all of the name formats that they need to the record in a couple of seconds without you having to click in 25 places to do it. So super, super useful. This is very customizable to any organization. We made them, we set them up exactly how ArchOKC needed them to be for all the things that they do. So I love this button. It's very cool.
And this plays on what Jolinda said about, like, look for the things that are like boring, awful, tasks that, like, this has got to be something that Peter's staff hated, right? Like, new donor comes to the door, having to create all those different addressees is probably annoying as heck. So why not just give them an easy or a magic button in this case? Love it. Yep. Okay. I think we have another version of that. Where are we going next? That was Oklahoma City, Lansing. Oh my gosh, Austen. Austen went 3 months without sleep on this Lansing project, so she's just now recovering, and we're glad to have her back. She's smiling again. So here's what was going on in Lansing. Everyone can commiserate with this. Every single person on the line here. All right, let me back up. This is what a typical diocese looks like, right? We're talking here about syncing parish data with the diocese. Huge, 300-pound gorilla in the room. Most dioceses have their parishes on individual platforms. Then you've got the diocese, you've got Razor's Edge, maybe the diocese, and your comms office is using Constant Contact or Flocknote, which is a separate silo. Newspaper's got a spreadsheet somewhere, the people they're sending to. It's a mess. By the way, next Tuesday, we'll release our diocesan survey. We're going to tell you how much of a mess it is, and we're going to show you what dioceses are doing on software. So, a little plug for next Tuesday's webinar. For years and years and years and years, the software companies promised dioceses, we're going to fix this. We're going to get everything into one system, right? We're going to come up with the best parish management software that is also going to work for the diocese. Everything is going to be in one spot. When Nick and Holly join Christ the King in Omaha, the data will flow up to the diocese, and they're going to have that information. That is what was promised. That is not happening. They're not even trying anymore. They've given up, rightly so, because if it would have worked, it would have worked great. But what all the software companies learned is what the parishes need to run a parish. That software is wildly different than what Jolinda needs to run a modern, effective development office at the diocese. They're just different beasts. So we've now arrived, at least now we know. We know that we don't have to hold our and wait for the solution because it's not coming. So Lansing, like many other dioceses, is arriving at this point, which is what's probably best practices right now. They have the majority of parishes on a CHMS platform. So ParishSoft, PDS, Ministry Platform, Gabriel, one of those, right? And then they've got the diocese as consolidated as it can be under Razor's Edge. What I want to highlight, and I'm not going to Austen, I'm not going to traumatize you and go through the individual. The amount of work that Austen did on this is absolutely ridiculous. Like Excel spreadsheet by Excel spreadsheet for 100 plus parishes, matching them up against the diocese. Here's what I just want to share from the automation standpoint. If you're syncing your data with the parishes right now, the best practice is at some point you do a cleanup of your diocesan Razor's Edge. You take all of your parish rosters and you send them to the parishes and say, here's who we have for your parishioners at St. Mary's. And the list you send them has your constituent IDs from Razor's Edge. Parish goes through them, reviews it, marks the people deceased, circle things that look weird. They send the rosters back to the diocese with those IDs. This is best practice. I wish we didn't have to do it, but we have to because they're all in separate systems. What Austen came up with by doing this by hand at so many parishes, she came up with something we're going to call the magic folder. Austen, what does the magic folder do? How does it work into this system we're talking about of like keeping a diocesan database up to date?
Well, by cross-referencing the IDs, that means when changes happen in one system, you can easily find the associated record in the other system. And so that helps expedite sort of major changes that happen on the parishioner level. So I think in Lansing, we have one specifically around deceased constituents. So when folks are marked as deceased in the parish CRM, Lansing gets a notification of a change log of, hey, this changed on X record. And what happens is the flow through Power Automate goes and looks up those people to see if the associated record is still there, what's different, all sorts of things. And it sort of does the busy work, right? What like Jolinda was saying before, it takes care of that tedious stuff and it just serves you up on a platter the information you need to ingest and update in your system.
Love it. So, we have really fun ones to get to too. So I'm going to rush through this. The short version, just what Austen said. At this point right here, Austen, right? Like, so when you're at this point where you're getting a change log, you're somehow pulling data from your parishes, automation can help you take that data, go inside a Razor's Edge, make matches where they're available, and serve it up in a way that you don't have to go through list by list. They can just say, this person added a new email at the parish level. Let's add it into Razor's Edge. If you have more questions on this, please reach out. I know that all dioceses are always interested in how the heck to do this.
And Isaac from Lansing put in the chat there, he loves the PFG automation. So he was happy to suffer through some of that with us, but we're in a good spot now.
Isaac was one of those, he came into the development office, right, not having worked in dioceses, and probably is like, he encounters this like giant data issue. He's like, what the heck? How do you live this way? Like, we've got Razor's Edge, every parish is an island. What the heck? I thought this would be, streamlined in a federated system. No, it was messy, but much less messy now. Cleveland, let's talk about this. Huge time saver. This is one of the first big automations we did, Stacy, right?
It was terrifying.
What
But
was
I
that?
love this one.
Don't tell him that. What did you do for our friend Ken in Cleveland? What was he doing, and how do we automate it?
So Cleveland had a big project every month where they sent out a list of gifts to parish school scholarship funds to that school, right? So every month when they would send these reports out, and there were 200 schools, and Mark in Cleveland would sit there and run a zillion of these gift data and summary reports and save them somewhere, and then he would find who the contact is at St. Joseph, and he would send an email and he would attach the report to it, right? It took days of work to do this every single month, right?
Ken and Mark spending a couple days a month just pulling reports, chopping them up, sending them out. And by the way, I want to be clear, this is fake data that's on the screen. This is all test data. We're not sharing like client information or anything.
We also want to be clear, Ken and Mark had other jobs. I mean, they did other things other than just this.
Yes.
So obviously a really painful thing that they hated doing. What does it look like now?
So now each month Ken goes in and presses a button, and to be very honest, we could probably just set it up to automatically happen every month, but that's
not as much fun.
But it's not as fun to be able to say, it's time, I'm ready.
Yes.
And Power Automate goes out to Razor's Edge. It finds all of the gifts. It separates them out into a million spreadsheets, one for each school. And then the school email information is stored in Razor's Edge on the fund record. And it then sends the email to the corresponding email address from Razor's Edge. So basically it takes no work now. It just happens magically whenever they tell it to do it.
And God bless the leadership in Cleveland too, because what what I've found is that it's easy for everybody to buy in the stuff that I get excited about. Like the heartfelt email served on a platter, like every development director is like, of course, it's going to raise money and donors are going to love it. But there's also stuff like this that is happening behind the scenes that is crushing your staff that is not as sexy to spend money on, but it's taking days out of somebody's life to build these reports. So I want to compliment Cleveland and the foundation there for seeing how much this could save them and deciding to move forward with it. That doesn't happen all the time. Last example, I promise, and we're going to get to Q&A, but there's too many good examples to not share these. Galveston, Houston, enormous archdiocese, right? Just absolutely enormous. They have one of the best appeals. Michael and Nick and the team, we've been working with them for a long time down there. Austen, we only give Austen the hard stuff, I'm realizing. Austin's been working with them for a long time on gift acknowledgments, right? And there's two ways you can do gift acknowledgments. Somebody makes a gift and you send them a letter. Somebody makes a gift, you send them an email. On the letter side, Austen, we now can have a system set up, right? The gift comes in, just as we shared earlier and you did with Jolinda and the IRA gifts, it just automatically goes and creates a thank you letter or acknowledgement letter for the person based on what they gave to. That goes and sits there in SharePoint. But why was this a big deal in Houston?
Because it was someone's task to remember to do this every other week. And it's an hours long process to export out your mail file and go through and remove, the anonymous, remove, the people that really shouldn't be getting an acknowledgement. And it just saves their staff so much time for this now to run in the background. So it runs on Friday afternoons every other week. When it's done crunching away, it just sends them an email with a link to the mail file and they can go do their final review and then send it off to their lockbox.
And I love this example because I know this is happening everywhere too. So 86,000 gifts that Houston will get, like by the end of the year. It's an unbelievable amount of gifts. And you just forget how much time you're spending doing this, right? So they're pulling a list. Oh, that's right. I got to pull out the anonymous gifts. Oh, I got to pull out the parish gifts. Like they're not a real person. They're not going to like, that's a parish gift. Like I got to get rid of the dupes. I got to figure out soft credits. Like the fact, Austin, that you can automate all of that cleanup to where it just runs every other week, pull the list, do all that cleanup and serve it up on a platter. It's just amazing, right? This is a big, big deal to folks in the background. And when you're as big as Houston is, that makes a difference. So they don't have to do it that way anymore. Because of Austen and the Automate Genius stuff, the list pulls automatically, it automates all the cleanup process, just sends a link, right? So instead of doing it yourself, you just get an email. It says, hey, your link's ready. Go ahead and review it, send it on to the lockbox. Super cool stuff there. On the email side, this is what's coming next, I believe. Is that right? So we're automating some email.
Yeah, so next month we're going to launch this.
I love it. I love it. So this is, you guys get where this is going. Gift acknowledgments, right? But if we have their email on file, we're going to send them an email. In Houston, they did a step extra of like asking people, do you want us to do this? So they could like opt in just to make sure that everything was really buttoned up. It's going to save them a ton of printing and postage costs, which everybody loves. We love it when automation can pay for itself. That's the cool stuff they're doing in Houston. Okay, so that's I can't believe I made it through all of them here. I was sweating when I saw the time going. I could talk about this for 3 more hours. If you want to learn more, I'll put this on the screen, and then I want to encourage people. If you have questions, hit the Q&A button. If you have the nerdiest, most detailed, nitty-gritty Razor's Edge question, this is your chance. There is no one on earth that knows more about Razor's Edge than the people that we have on the screen in front of you today. If you want to know more about automations that we do, reach out, check out automategenius.com. You can scan that. You can set up set up a meeting. Andy and Menke, you guys are taking those, right? So if people are like, hey, I want to talk about more, it goes to one of the two of you. Is that right?
It will. We're both happy to talk through and do demos. And shout out, we've got a lot of diocesan folks here, but I will actually be at ICSC. So I'm happy to, for any of you that are going to be making it down to New Orleans and want to kind of talk through this in person, happy to share some of that with you and can give you some even more, insights as to how some of our diocesan clients are really leveraging the power that is Automate Genius.
Love it. That's right. BBCon, and it'll be a whole lot of fun. So if you are coming to BBCon, make sure we've got a little webinar coming up on that too. We do a little preview, and Stacy shares all the best sessions, and we have a little scavenger hunt with some giveaways. That's a lot of fun this year. So anything, Jolinda, I'm going to ask you while we wait to see if anybody has any detailed questions. Big picture advice for other dioceses, and don't just say this is great, PSG is really helpful, although I appreciate that, of course. But is there anything that is wonky about it? Anything that you want to warn people like, be prepared for this if they're getting into the automation stuff?
Well, you might have noticed my head down on a few occasions while you guys were talking because I was making notes. And I mean, the real problem is once you buy into this and get doing it, you begin thinking differently of what's next. What's next? I want to be Isaac Owen in Lansing. I want to do what he's doing over there. So it does take some detailed work setting it up at first. But anything we've done hasn't required more than a phone call with Stacy and a few emails back and forth to get things set. There's always a test phase that we go through. So I guess my advice to you is really, what's the work nobody wants to do?
Yep.
And how do you tick that off? And if you could get a couple of those going, there's like the switch that goes off in your mind all of a sudden of how do we now that those are off, how do we fill the space with strategy?
Yep. Put people to better use. And I love that too. Like, this is when we first started talking about this, to be very candid, like I met with a lot of DBAs and they're like, DBAs we're skittish people, right? Like nobody knows what we do. Nobody appreciates the DBA. Nobody understands, so it's always like, oh, so now you're like automating me out of a job or something like, and it has come so full circle, like, oh my gosh, no, I can actually do what I want to do, which is now like use my talents, help raise more money, make people's lives easier, and you're going to get rid of all the boring grind stuff that I absolutely hate. Like that's the way to look at automation from the DBA standpoint. Stacy, I'm going to give you the final comment here. What is it true that automations work better if your database is organized? Is that true?
No, it doesn't matter if your data is organized. We can make it work. No, I'm kidding. We cannot make it work if your data is not organized. We will have to fix it beforehand. So yes, if the cleaner you can get things and the more streamlined you can get your existing processes, the more automation can help you.
Yep. And again, we can talk through that with you. So if you have any questions, there's so many cool things. I hope even the diocese, I realize I'm going through like Cleveland and Indy and Houston, like so many of these are doing really cool things. They probably haven't even seen what the other dioceses are doing. Like we haven't even got to that point. So like Jolinda taking notes, I realize now like, wow, there's a lot that we probably need to go back to these clients with. If you have questions about this, see us at BBCon, shoot us an email, scan that, go to Automate Genius, set up a meeting. Andy and Andy will talk it through with you. And they will tell you like if you need to do some data cleanup before you're ready for this, they'll tell you exactly how and how long it will take. Like we're the easiest team in the world to work with, but we're just so excited about this because there's such great stuff you can do. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you all for joining us.
Nick,
Andy,
we did have a couple questions.
I didn't see anything on the Q&A button.
No, I have a few, so we can try to rattle through them relatively quickly if that works.
Hilarious. I'm over here just like vamping and just chatting, and people are like, dude, answer my question.
Yeah.
Maybe I was looking at chat. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you see him now or no?
I do. All right. Sorry. Rapid fire. Austen, you're up first. Does a connector work for RE7 or only NXT?
It only works for Razor's Edge NXT, but fear not. There are ways to get data out of database view to be used in automation. You just can't write back to the database. Does that make sense? So you can get data out and ingest it in Power Automate and automate some things. If you have the queue module in database view, then it can be purely automated rather than someone initiating an export.
Love it. Man, I feel like such a bonehead. These people with questions sitting there, and I just thought everybody was like not asking questions today. Question from Stacy, this is for you, from Debbie. Can you do multiple gifts in a single letter?
So yes, we can. So that's a little bit of a different process than the 1 letter per gift. So then we do a 1 letter per constituent, and that's more like we do a tax letter that way or a post-event thank you letter. If you have people that are, buying a bunch of auction items and whatever, something like that you need. So that is definitely possible. It's a little bit different from our normal gift acknowledgement process, but it is possible.
Love it. Jolinda, I'm going to put you on the spot with this one. Question, what has been the return on this program? So you're in the best position, right? Like you're the development director, advancement director. Like, is this worth it? What's the return? Your thoughts?
Yeah, so at this point, I don't have any hard data based on the return. The we received your check piece. We just have had up and running for the last 3 months, but I've already reallocated people's time. I think, you're not going to see tangible numbers associated with the dirty tasks no one
Right.
wants to do.
Right.
I'm ready to open the next chapter on the things we are going to see return on investment on. So one of the ones Stacy and I have planned, we haven't even talked about yet, is, and we're probably duplicating efforts of somebody that's already on the call, but we're going to do a session where if we have LIBUNs that haven't responded, we're going to send an email that comes from me, and it says, we haven't received your gift yet. Would love to tell you about new things that are happening in the diocese. Click here to schedule a meeting, and then there'll be a button to make a gift. So Stacy, who was it that had great results doing that? That we're gonna be good stewards and take their idea.
Yeah, Archdiocese of Denver started that one. Love that. They just made just thousands of dollars from a very small amount of effort. Loved that one.
The last time I looked, Archdiocese of Denver had raised $140,000 directly attributable to that LIBUN outreach. So if you're looking for ROI, it's easy, honestly, on the forward-facing stuff. Arch Denver, 140 grand. Phoenix, a six-figure gift that came in because of them getting notified that somebody made a gift. They weren't assigned to a solicitor. They did an outreach call. Like, we can talk about that all day long. Okay, other questions here from Caitlin. With automated emails, is there a way to track who you sent it to? If it's automated. So Stacy, you want to explain briefly old way, new way, like where we are in the app and stuff?
So old way with the Power Automate way, we do actually add an action to the system, and then we kind of don't send to those people again. So yeah, so we do usually control for that. And then in the new way, there will also be a way to say, you know, we're not going to send this if they've already received that template or if they've received that in the last 90 days or something. So yes, we definitely control for that so that people aren't getting the exact same email multiple times.
And I've said it before, it's medium effort to create these automations. A lot of our brain power goes to, once you've built the automations, putting the guardrails around it to make sure it doesn't go haywire. Like truly, that's where it takes the brain power. Is like, yes, we can draft these emails, but how do we do it so that a husband and wife don't get the exact same email, or if someone gets this email today, they don't get the next one this next day. So a lot of it is kind of building in protections after the fact and around it. And Stacy and Austen are fantastic about that. Any interesting experiences or ideas to automate giving? I'll do this to the last one since we're over. Interesting giving options for parishioners to give to their parish in real time, like when you use crowdfunding software, Giving Tuesday. Thoughts about that? My first thought is, don't look at automation as a replacement for a bulk email. Like if there's something that is best done through like Constant Contact, MailChimp, like a mass email, use that. That is not good. What automation is good for. What automation is great for is like, I want, whenever somebody signs up for this event or views this webpage or whatever, like I want to send them a heartfelt note from a real person. That's what automation is great for. Stacy, any other thought that you have on that?
I don't know that I have
Like Giving Tuesday stuff. Yeah, I'd have to noodle on that a little bit more.
And one of the things I will say, so I've had an experience with Giving Tuesday. There's an organization that uses automation. I gave, during Giving Tuesday at 9:30 in the morning, I got an email almost instantly from a gift officer at my alma mater, where I gave, where normally that wouldn't have been a situation until probably 2 or 3 days later after the gift was processed and everything else, right? So there are ways to utilize it from a Giving Day standpoint where it can be an instant notification that somebody, I was not expecting to get that personal thank you right away, but I did.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Love it. Okay. All right. We really will leave it there. I'm so glad that people ask questions. I'm like, why is it just crickets out there? We will send you these links. We'll send you the recording. We'll send you the slides. Jolinda, I'm sure you're okay if people do really want to dive into this, if they can reach out to you just to get your experience, not to put you on the spot.
Would love to help anyone who has questions. And then I'll send you to Stacy and Austen because they really know how it works.
They do. They do. Okay. Everyone, thank you so much. Have a wonderful Thursday. Go Chiefs. And we will see you at our next webinar, likely the Tuesday big survey release. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.